All right, real quick. So one of the reasons why, we talked about having this podcast, and I said, okay, we're gonna talk NFL draft, we're gonna talk Last Dance, episodes 3 and 4, centering around Dennis Rodman and the Bad Boy Pistons and their effect on the Chicago Bulls. And I was thinking like, okay, who can I have on the show? Who can I have on the show? Who roots for Detroit, Detroit through and through, from the area, yada yada yada. And at first I went. For a split second, I went, Stephen Patton. Stephen Patton on Twitter. He's from Detroit. He's a Detroit fan. And I said, man, you tripping. You got to get the homie Jesse on the show to talk about the Detroit Pistons. And so this is part of the reason why he's here, other than being one of the homies and friends of the show. So Last Dance, episodes 3 and 4. Episode 3 focuses on Dennis Rodman, who is one of the more fascinating individuals I've ever seen in my life. The Vegas story is one of the craziest stories in sports that I've heard. Obviously, today you could not get away with something like that because you would have camera phones out everywhere. Yo, Rodman in the casino. That reminds me of my own Vegas story of seeing Corey Brewer in the casino. So, you would have phones out everywhere filming this guy talking about his kamikaze time, it's time to blow your mind, so that was an interesting episode. And then 4 dealt with the Pistons and the Jordan rules and how they had a blueprint on how to stop Jordan, which was basically beat him up. The rules allowed that physical play and they used it to their advantage, which I can't be mad at. So Jesse, I want to start by giving you the floor to let you just talk about that time, talk about those Detroit Pistons, what they meant to you, what they meant to the city.
So, so as a kid, man, oh man, it was unbelievable. Like, in a time when, at that time it was Magic, Bird, Dr. J, and that was the league, and then to have Detroit come in and completely switch everything up, and just to be so defensive and so physical. I mean, if you talk about looking at, I was telling you the other day or yesterday, if you ask Lane Beer today, they interviewed him, I think on Monday about that. And he said, oh yeah, the Bulls are a bunch of whiners. And they were like, so the lady said, would you change anything? Would you apologize now or do something different? He was like, absolutely not. Those are a bunch of crybabies. I don't care what you think about me. They're a bunch of whiners and crybabies.
Keeping the same energy.
Yeah, same 100%. He couldn't give a rip. But that's why I love that dude. And that's Detroit. So that Bad Boys team is Detroit through and through. I mean, it's the heart and soul of Detroit, and people want to say, well, they played physical, this, and that. They played good basketball too. Which what people don't understand is they played really good basketball. And to have a guy like Isaiah Thomas come in, who to me is probably he was a star in my eyes. He's my favorite player of all time. But he's still so underrated in my book, because he took steps back in order for them to win. He was willing to say, I don't need to average 27, 30 points a game. I want to win. And so, I think me and Carlos talked about that yesterday with like him and Stockton. I said, to me, it's not even a comparison. Like, I don't care. Your numbers mean nothing to me. What did you do to lead your team to victories and to get those championships, which, by the way, should have been back to back to back had they not called that lame foul on Lane Beer against Kareem. So in a time when that league was, to me, is the golden era, Isaiah ran through the Lakers, the Celtics, the Bulls. And they didn't just beat the Bulls. They owned the Bulls.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Isaiah's still in Jordan's big head, because he could never get the best of him. I think Isaiah was I think the record was like 36 and 20 something against Jordan in his career. And, so for guys like Jordan, that sticks with them because he knows that that's one of those.
Take that.
Let me see.
It's these notifications popping up on his phone.
Hilarious.
Again.
Hey.
There we go.
Yeah. I don't know why I keep doing that. I got kids at home, man. They're on my Wi-Fi.
There
Michael
you go.
Jordan got bread. Michael Jordan got bread. He heard you bad talking.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
So,
Jordan was like, cut the
right.
beat.
And
DJ
so-
D-Rick.
So when you talk to Detroit fans, like we are not Jordan fans at all. Like I hated Jordan. Like I hated LeBron. I hate LeBron because he's in the same conference, He's in the same division, the Central Division. So I didn't grow up liking Jordan. I hated Jordan just because. And so every time they would put him on the ground, bravo, but from that same token, when I go back and watch like the Bad Boys special, when Jordan said, they can't beat me up. So what I do, I went back and worked harder. I worked out, started working out. I had to do this, and the other. But more importantly, his mentality, his mentality is just different. Me and Carlos talked about this yesterday. People want to talk about Jordan's mentality, but that same mentality was in Magic, was in Bird, was in Isaiah. There was multiple players in that era that had that mentality. And I think people forget about that because they want to say Jordan. But those same dudes, you go ask, a lot of their teammates hated them just as much as the teammates didn't like Jordan because they knew that there was an expectation of winning. Like, you're not going to come here and jack around and do what you want to do. Hence, Bill Laimbeer talking to Mark Aguirre when they did that trade for Mark Aguirre to Adrian Dantley. Aguirre was averaging like 25, 26 a game, but Laimbeer made it up front with him and said, you're not going to come here and act a fool. We're about winning here, so if you're going to do all that dumb stuff, you can go somewhere else. And so that mentality as a Piston, there's not much like it. That 04 team that won the championship against the Lakers, same thing. They're just tough-minded. They're just a bunch of lack of a better term, rejects, kids, people that people didn't want. Rodman came in. He was a late draft pick. No one really knew what they had in him. He wasn't crazy back then either, though. They had that Pistons team, the Bad Boys, they had that big
That's debatable.
He wasn't crazy in Detroit.
He hadn't found a way to express his craziness yet.
There we go.
We
go.
Yeah, because he had Isaiah, he had Bailey and those guys. But as soon as that went down, holy cow, he went nuts. But in Detroit, he was, he'll always be, in my eyes, he'll always be a Piston. I don't care what he did with Chicago. He'll always be a Piston.
How many rings does he have?
I want to say 5 or 6.
So did he get one? He didn't get one with Detroit back in the.
Yeah, he won back-to-back in Detroit.
Yeah, he won back-to-back with Detroit.
Okay, he got
back-to-back.
So he's got at least 5.
And then he
I
won
think it's 5. I think
3
it's
with
5.
Chicago, right?
Yeah, I think it's 5. And what people don't talk about, like I said, was the brand of basketball Detroit played. They played well. They played really well. They had a really deep bench. You could say 9, 10 deep.
So let me ask you something. Mm-hmm. The whole idea of we can't guard him, so foul him. Is that like in your head? Is it like you got to do what you got to do to win the game, or is it like no? Somebody find a way to guard him. Do you subscribe to that? Because my thing is like, you play good basketball or whatever, but whenever you get down to like, look, we can't guard this dude. Nobody can we just can't do it. So like now, just beat the hell out of him. Like, is that almost saying like we give up? We're just gonna win at all costs?
I think and mind you, this is that era. So in that era, you did that, but. I don't think they did it. He's going to score. He was going to score, but he was taking a lot of shots too. He was going to get his points regardless whether people liked it or not. They did a pretty good job on him.
He was going like 17 for 38 from the field.
Yeah.
Like,
so they're like, well, he scored 40. I'm like, well, he took 53 shots. He should have scored 40, So from Detroit, they threw Rodman at him. They threw Dumars at him, which I think – Jordan said that Dumars was probably one of the toughest people he ever played, that you never hear about Dumars in any of these specials. And it was because Dumars could play offense and defense, and so they threw a lot of defense at him, but a lot of it was too just funneling to the middle. So let's move everyone, get him to come down the middle. And when he comes down that middle, no free lunches, and that's what's missing now. So when people tell me, well, LeBron did this. And I'm like, yeah, but there's something to say. Like, if you go out and play, all of us have played basketball on this call right here, right? So if I'm coming down the lane and some dude hits me in the head and puts me on the ground, which dudes are strong enough mentally to say, I know what's coming and I'm still going to do it. You just can't do that nowadays. You can barely touch anyone nowadays, for one, but to have that mentality where that's why so many people like Kobe. Kobe was that guy that was the crossover in between the 80s, the 80 era and then now. and people love him to death, but it's because he's the same thing that I grew up with. I forget y'all a little younger than me, but I grew up with that. So we had a lot of dudes do that. And, you know, is it cheating? No, I don't think it was cheating. It was well within the rules. So do you do that? So to answer your question, do you do that because you want to win? Absolutely. Absolutely. You're trying to win the game. And if it means me putting you on the ground to get you so pissed off or so you know, the body pains that come along with it, ask Scottie Pippen game 7 against Rodman. That's right, you can't because he didn't play in it. You know, that's you know, what you're dealing with. That mental stuff. He had a migraine, but everyone knew that he was so out of it because Detroit was killing that dude. You know, no one. You asked Lane Beer, I think they interviewed him. He said, we weren't worried about not one person on the team but Jordan. We knew that if we didn't really care, we were just going to beat him down. No one else was going to do nothing to us.
That's how it should be. Scottie Pippen just a scrub anyway.
No, but I'll say this to kind of echo what Jesse is saying is like they play within the rules, right? Like they played within the rules and did what they had to do, and it's similar to how flopping became a thing because they knew they could get rewarded for it. So if I could pick up a cheap foul, then yeah, I might jerk my head back to accurate contact or act as if I've been touched because I want to try to get into the penalty quicker or get this guy in foul trouble.
All right. What about so what's the guy's name? Chaney, the coach?
Chaney?
That Temple?
Oh, yeah, John Chaney. Yeah, John Chaney.
When he sends the guy off the bench to just get his 5 fouls, you know what I mean? Like when he he plays within the rules. You know what I mean? Like send the guy off the bench. The guy's just gonna beat the hell out of you 5 times and foul out or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
But is there not something to say about like the integrity?
I mean, it's like Hackensack. It's like Hackensack.
Because I do subscribe to the like you come in here and like you know think you're gonna dunk on me, you're gonna get fouled. I subscribe to that, but I don't subscribe to the mindset of that's what we're doing every time. You know what I mean? Like I don't subscribe to like the coaching of that mindset. I subscribe to like, oh yeah, bet you don't come in here again. Watch this. When I box out and undercut you and you land on your neck, like you're gonna think twice about it next time.
But so let's expound upon that then real quick, A.Ward, because in order to get that mentality, you have to back it up. Like if I do it one time to you, the next time you might be like, oh, he wouldn't do that again because I'll crack his head open. But you keep doing it and you keep doing it. Now, mind you, people remember the bad boys for this. A lot of teams did it. The Celtics were super dirty back then. I mean, super dirty. They did the same stuff. And so you would see all these fights, literal fights, by the way. I had to show Jackson this. I said, your era is about talking about fighting and pushing and stuff. My era was about landing haymakers on faces in the middle of the game and then going back in the game because you just got a technical foul, but you were still in the game, you know. And but to go with your question there, in order to get that mentality, you actually have to do the things to get you that mentality. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if you come down that lane in Detroit, you knew that you were going to get the business, and they did not give a crap whether you liked it or not. So that's what I'm saying from the toughness standpoint of Jordan. I respected it because he knew coming down that lane it was going to be tough, and he knew he was going to be on that ground, coming off the ground many, many times. But it made him better. So all these Bulls fans, and I'm sure we're going to hear about it here, there, and the other. We made your star. You're welcome.
Hey, you heard it there first. Michael Jordan's success is directly connected to the Detroit Pistons. Hot take number 2 on It's a Black and White thing.
Listen, I'll say this. I don't think that, first of all, that level of play was allowed, but it is not safe. Like some of the stuff they were doing, if you did that on the playground, like be ready to square. Be ready to square. You're right. Somebody might go to the trunk for some of the stuff that they pull. And so,
man, did I ever tell you guys that story about the time the guy went to the trunk on me at the playground?
No.
I was out playing off Cleveland, like it's over off like 39th and Cleveland or something like that in the Missouri, right? And there's this outdoor court or whatever. And I'm over there and, I'm probably like 2 years into college or whatever. And I'm doing the A.Ward thing, I'm over here shimmy shaking and everything, right? Now, mind you, I'm the only Caucasian on the court and within, probably a good distance or whatever. So I'm playing, everything's cool. We're hooping, whatever. Mind you guys too, I'm not A.Ward. I'm obviously not A.Ward. I'm just, this skinny white dude with handles. So I cross up, right? And my guy, one of my guys on my team, he does like this backdoor screen or whatever. And I try to like throw the ball, right? I try to like throw the ball real quick, just boom, to hit him cutting, right? And it flies through and just bow, hits this dude in the mouth, and his whole grill comes out. Like his whole, like he had like a gold grill, and he just starts bleeding right from the thing, right? When I tell you, bro, this dude walked straight to his trunk that was parked on the streets, right? And I didn't know what was going on. And I was like I was shaking in my boots, right? He's like, phew. You know, he's like, and he walks straight to his truck and pops it or whatever, and then he just gets this towel out the trunk and starts wiping the blood off his mouth. And I was like, oh, hallelujah. And I'm over there like, bro, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Wow.
Yeah. So, anyways, the rabbit trail pop the trunk story, A.Ward edition. Continue though.
So speaking of classless, right? So let's talk about Game 4. Was it 1991?
90. Yeah, 90-91. Yeah.
Yeah, 90-91 season. Bulls sweep the Pistons. They get, after being taken out, the previous 2 years? Or 3 years, right? Was it 3 years?
3 years. Yeah.
Previous 3 years by the Pistons. They finally get over the hump. They beat them, go to the NBA Finals. The story goes, Lambeer whispers to Isaiah, hey, let's get out of here. We're not shaking hands. They walk off the court. Before the game ends, they don't shake hands. It becomes a defining narrative of the bad boy Pistons and calling them classless. And I'm going to start because I got a story now. What they did was poor sportsmanship. It was classless. I don't deny that, but I don't blame them. Good for you. You should have walked off. I don't like you. Why am I going to shake your hand and congratulate you when I don't like you? I don't rock with you. First of all, bump the clique and the crew you claim.
Yeah.
I don't. You know what I'm saying? We're not cool at all. So back in the day when me and A.Ward used to play in church league and little church league, whatever.
Hold on, you can't be talking about being classless in a church league.
Hold on. So we played together on teams for years.
Yeah.
And then, but the league got big enough to where we got split up. I was a captain. He was a captain. Oh. Right. Our teams collide. We play a really good game. It goes double overtime. Each side having a chance to win the game once in regulation and once in the first overtime. His team comes through victorious.
That was a crazy game. There was some terrible calls in that game, but yeah, it was a crazy.
So after the game, A.Ward was like, yo, let's pray before we go.
Mm-hmm.
You think I wanted to pray with that man? Absolutely not. No, I don't want to pray with you right now, bro.
I like it when stories make me look good. Come on.
I just lost. I'm heated. I want to fight. I don't want to pray. It's all like he circle up. I'm like, man, circle up for what? Like I'm like, man, I hope this prayer hit the ceiling and bounce right back down to the floor. Like I was heated. So I completely understand. And I like the guy.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So
even from a battle rap standpoint, like there's times where you see me in battles, Colossus, right? where after I was done smoking his boots, that was it. You wasn't going to get me on camera shaking his hand. That's what you get. That's how I'm leaving everybody that watched this to know that I don't rock with you.
So where did this stuff start coming out? It wasn't from that era because no one gave a crap back in that era. Like if I don't shake your hand, who gives a crap? You beat me, great. Go on about your business.
Oh, I mean, we're in participation trophy era. I mean, everybody, right? The buzzer sounds, everybody goes and gets in line, and
but I do think that particular team, you got to think they're going against Jordan, who's the golden boy, and if you watch, John Sally talk about, hey, the Bulls were anointed, right? They were supposed to be next because they had Michael Jordan, right? Mm-hmm. It went Bird, Magic, and now it's Jordan's time, and we got in the way of that.
Yeah.
Right? And so with them embracing this mentality, with them having the Jordan rules, right? Like they are openly saying, we're trying to hurt you. So what? What are you going to do about it? I think you combine all of that, and I think an underrated part of this is Isaiah's Bird. If Bird was a black man, he would just be another player.
That was the Rodman thing.
Right. Right,
the
Robin was the one. Robin was the one who said it, but Isaiah co-signs it in a way, right? Like kind of co-signs it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you put all of that in the pot, then add in them walking off the court and not shaking hands, even though the Celtics. So I watched that video because Isaiah said the Celtics did it. I went back and watched game. I forget, was it game 6 when they finally eliminate the Celtics?
Yeah, 6.
So I think there's a little bit of truth on both sides. Yes, a lot of the Celtics did walk off the floor without shaking hands. I think Bird is one of them. But you see a few of them. So there's a foul. There's a foul with like 3 seconds left. So there's one more foul. And you see, like, I think Dennis Johnson is walking over towards their bench. Obviously, Kevin McHale. I think Isaiah stops McHale to have a quick conversation with him. But there
him and McHale walked off talking,
1 or 2 Celtics went to the bench. The rest of them, because they realized, hey, this is about to be pandemonium. We want to get off the floor. We don't want to get caught into this. Although, kind of bad teammates leave the other 5 guys on the floor, by the way.
Hey, well, and so what people don't understand is the main people we're talking about here is Isaiah and Lambeer. Because Dumars, I believe, stayed around, shook some hands. Sally, I think, shook some hands. I think Sally's really, really close with Jordan from like when they were in college, maybe before college. Okay. So it wasn't like all 12 or 15 of them guys just walked off. So it was a lot in the same way as the Celtics did it. But the main people, because the main people on that team were, the personalities on that team were Thomas and Lambeer. And so they're naturally going to take the blame for it. And so people, were hitting me up all week. Well, he got what he deserved. Great. He was a 2-time world champion. I mean, what are you talking about? Like, he went out here with nothing. I mean, he won, and he knew. And with that mentality, you to go back to what A.Ward said, win at all cost. And it cost him. But he will forever be remembered as a back-to-back champion in an era when he beat everyone,
Yeah, and I feel like, I think the documentary this weekend is going to get into this. I feel like that Dream Team snub
was a joke.
Left off the Dream Team, I think, is really what hurts his legacy, right? Because I think Isaiah is underrated. And I got one, when we get ready to close the show, I got one statement that I know Jesse's going to go probably pop his top when I bring it up. But I think that if he is on that Dream Team and he's able to have that accomplishment with all those other great players, I think we look at Isaiah a lot differently than we did with him not having that accomplishment.
So did you see – granted, this was like the greatest week for the Pistons back in the day. I mean, everything was Detroit this week. But when they asked Isaiah, they said, "So were you surprised by what Jordan and Horace Grant said?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm absolutely surprised because they never said that to my face, and I've been around them a million times." He was like, "They've never said any of that to my face," but he was like, "It's easy to sit there and behind a camera and say all that mess." So I'm like, it is what it is. And like I said, I think people are making it a bigger thing than what the handshake thing. Like back then, who gives a crap? You won. You went on to your dynasty. I mean, you guys were great. We were great. You were great. Great. I don't really give a crap. Now if I'm doing Jackson's little team, of course we're shaking hands because it's different. But when you're grown men and you're battling like that, do what you got to do, man. Go ahead, A.Ward. Sorry.
Back then, what would you say the competition, like the parity it's much better today than it was back then? I mean, because it seems like it was just Celtics, Lakers, Pistons, Bulls, or kind of, but I mean, you don't really hear about too many other teams.
The Cavaliers were pretty good. You obviously see that when Jordan put them out. I think he put them out a couple times, to be honest with you, but they were a pretty good team. They had Brad Daugherty, Mark Price, who no one talks about Mark Price, and he was a pretty good player. Elo, Hot Rod Williams.
Who was it that said that he said he was going to D up Jordan on that last play? He's like, Coach told me.
Ron Harper?
Yeah, he said, Coach told me I'm putting Elo on him. He said, ain't this?
Hey, Ron Harper before the knee injury was nice, though.
He was nice.
He was nice.
Oh, man.
Like, if he was around today and you had the technology to repair knee injuries like you did now, like he still would have been a really good player.
He's an afterthought on the Bulls teams. He's a guy that he was there, but when you remember him before that, he was really, really good. I mean,
he had Jordan the business.
Yeah, he was about what 6'5", 6'6".
He's like 6'7".
Is
Oh,
Steve
that
Kerr
big?
is Steve Kerr considered better because of his now being in the light as a coach? I mean, was he a very good basketball player, or was he just kind of?
He was a
He
role
was a
player.
shooter. I mean,
Yeah,
he was just
shooter.
that's all he was. He didn't do anything.
Was he
You know who he was?
what's the
They
kid's
had
name?
a guy like
What's the
that all
kid's
the
name
time.
for the
B.J.
Cavs that
Armstrong.
hit the three every game?
You talking about Mark Price?
No.
J.R. Smith?
These days, the white dude that played for the Cavs that he came over with LeBron when LeBron.
Oh, Mike Miller.
Was it Mike? No, was it Mike Miller?
No, Mike Miller was in Miami.
Yeah, but he came to the
I'm
Cavs
talking
too.
about the shooter. Oh my gosh! All right, I'm gonna think of it later. Anyway, keep going.
But yeah, I mean, he was. They had like B.J. Armstrong. They always had a shooter or two on that team. So there was nothing special about him other than he could shoot.
You're not talking about Dellavedova, are you?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but he ain't a shooter in my eyes. That's why I was like, I couldn't think it would be Dellavedova. Yeah.
Harris, are you?
No. Keep going. I'll find it.
All right.
You had the Milwaukee Bucks. You had the Sixers. So you had other teams. Just you had the Lakers and Celtics. Let's just be honest. They dominated that whole 7, 8 years.
Magic made the finals 8 years in the 8. Bird was something like 7.
7, yeah. Now, so here's the thing. I'll tell you a quick Larry Bird story. So my son, I've been telling him, I said, go look at Larry Bird's numbers compared to LeBron James's numbers. I said, go do that. Go look at career numbers and you'll be surprised. And then you throw that Larry Bird mentality on there. And he was like, so I showed him.
There we go again. Now I'm talking about the dude with the fan from Creighton.
Kyle Korver.
That's what I'm talking about.
Man, I'm gonna be on some old garbage. Yeah, I saw you do the timeout. So I was telling
you telling your son to watch Bird, got the same stats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I got Bird. I showed him this little YouTube clip of Bird and all these other NBA players talking about him, and he goes, "Dad, I didn't know he was like that." I said, "I'm trying to tell you, bro." I said, "There's a lot of people that would easily take Bird over Magic as a player. When they were both in their primes, people would." If they were being truthful to themselves, would take him because he could do it all, and he was just like, he was stunned that Larry Bird was that good. And I said, yeah, I hated Larry Bird because the Celtics were to us what we were to the Bulls. They beat us for like 3-4 years in a row and they just hammered us. And Larry Bird with that stupid steal with 6 seconds left against Isaiah just killed my childhood, but there were other teams, A.Ward, but yeah. That you're talking about historically great teams, so it was hard to beat.
The reason I thought about it was because I saw Skip Bayless's top 10 players of all time today. That he listed his top 10 players of all time. And when I looked at it, I thought, okay, you got Tim Duncan and you have Michael Jordan. They were the only 2 of the top 10 that had not played for the Celtics or the Lakers, I believe.
Really?
So, like, when I'm looking at
LeBron's not making his list no matter what.
Yeah.
Well, no, LeBron was his 9th best. Now, LeBron made his top 10. So, he had Jordan, and then he had, I think it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, then it was Bird, and then it was, like, Shaq, and he had, I think Bill Russell was in there, Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant was, like, 7th. I think LeBron might have been 9th or something like that. But yeah, when I was looking at the picture of it, I was just looking at the players and I was thinking, man, like 8 of these guys have played for the Lakers or the Celtics, and then you got, Jordan and you got Tim Duncan. I was like, that's crazy to me that, if you go way back to Dr. J playing with, 76ers or, different players like that, you could find some, but it just really wasn't that many GOATs that played outside of Celtics, Lakers, or even the Pistons teams.
They were there, but they were by themselves. They didn't have 4 other dudes, that were able to. When you got McHale, that's another underrated dude in my book. Is Kevin McHale. You put McHale, Robert Parrish, Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge, Larry Bird, and then I'm sure they had cats coming off the bench. That's a lot. You talk about the Lakers with Byron Scott, Michael Cooper, and those are your afterthoughts. And I mean, it's easy to do. It's kind of like the quarterback thing. It's easy to do when you're playing on a team where you got guys you can throw to. You know, when you got James Worthy and Kareem on your team, it'll make players look pretty good. I mean,
yeah. So we're about to get out of here. So I'm gonna ask this question. I'm gonna come, Jesse. You cannot answer. You answer last.
I'm on mute.
So we have this discussion regarding Isaiah. You talk about greatest point guards of all time. And I do think that Isaiah does get left out of those conversations or slighted. So I'm going to ask you, A.Ward, better point guard. We talk about all time. I'm not going John Stockton because that's it. The answer is Isaiah.
I already know where you're going with it. Go ahead.
Steph Curry.
So you're taking Steph Curry over Isaiah.
Yeah.
I'm taking. I need to see the end of Steph's career, but as of now, I'm taking Isaiah.
You're taking Isaiah?
I'm taking Isaiah. All right, Jesse.
I thought you were going to go Chris Paul, which I was going to laugh you off the thing, but
no, I still think it's Steph. I mean, I still think it's Freudian slip. I still think it's Isaiah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. I don't know what's up on my internet right now, but I mean, naturally, I'm gonna take Isaiah, but Steph is Steph. I mean, he's incredible. It's just a different thing. But I listened to this other podcast who I will not mention, but I did talk to you about Carlos, and they had interviewed Isaiah, and they said, "So Isaiah, what would you have been allowed back in those days to do all that fancy dribbling and stuff?" He was like, "They would have beat the crap out of me." He was like, "Veterans would have beat the crap out of you. They told you flat out, don't try to do that to me."
Yeah.
So there's that difference of that. So he's like, he toned down a lot of it. So he still does, did stuff like that. But I mean, Isaiah is always going to be my guy. So I'm never going to pick against him. Ever going to pick against him.
I think Isaiah is a top 7 point guard of all time. I think that's fair.
Who's ahead of him?
Top 7? You must be crazy. Go ahead.
No,
who's ahead of him?
I'm dead serious. I think that's fair. I think Oscar Robertson.
Okay.
Steph Curry.
Okay.
Now you're gonna probably think I'm tripping, but I think Jason Kidd. Yes,
okay.
is a better and for what he did for the game and like how he changed the point guard position.
How did he change the point guard position?
From a triple-double standpoint and from doing everything and the game manager and just like he basically is like what you said Kobe was like from that old era to the new era, like Kidd, yeah.
I mean, technically that was Oscar Robertson.
Thank you. I was going to say your first guy you mentioned did that.
Magic.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm just giving you 4 guys that were. I mean, other than Kidd, you know what I mean. So, I didn't mention Jerry West. I didn't watch these guys, but I think that people could make crazy arguments for your Oscar Robertsons, your Jerry West. You know.
Mm-hmm. So
Russell Westbrook, bro. Russell, you can't not put Russell Westbrook in the top 10 point guards of all time.
Hey, listen.
Or Steve Nash.
Steve Nash. Okay.
Steve Nash. Are you high?
What are they talking about?
So here's the thing.
I'm just saying that when it gets past those first 3 of Magic, like Steph Curry and probably Oscar Robertson, next 4 or 5, there's not much separation.
At absolute worst, Isaiah's top 3. At absolute worst, he is top 3.
You think that he's clearly better than Magic, Curry, or Oscar Robertson?
I think if you're going to go in my rankings, you're going to go Magic and then Isaiah.
No.
Magic and Isaiah. And
Even Jackson knows. You
killed yourself on this whole conversation when you put in Russell Westbrook and Steve Nash.
No, first off, those are top 10 point guards of all time.
Absolutely. They're just not top 3 point guards of all time.
I didn't say 3. I said 7, right? So whenever I'm saying if I'm throwing Russell Westbrook
no particular order.
There was no order. I was just saying that if I say I think Isaiah Thomas is a top 7 point guard of all time, that doesn't mean he's 7th. That just means that I could see the argument of somebody having him 7 or somebody having him 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever. You know what I mean? So if you're looking at it, if we were to put stuff like that, I think that he falls into the second. I don't want to say second tier is disrespectful because like I would say to me, Magic, Curry, and Robertson probably are clearly like people are not gonna not put those guys in your top 3 90% of the time. But then I think you fall to the next 5 guys, and it's like it's Isaiah, it's Kidd, it's Jerry West, it's people might put Chris Paul. I'm not a Chris Paul fan. I'm not a big Chris Paul fan. So, but people might. So I don't think it's I don't think I'm being naive to say that.
All I know is I know what I'm clipping and sending out as a promo vid for this podcast.
I just did an interview with Chris McCody last night, and like him and Marv, like we could have had them on too. I didn't think about it because they're diehard Pistons fans. You know what I mean? And so they're probably gonna disown me for saying that, But yeah, like I just, man, I don't know. It's a tough thing, and I'm looking at some other guys on here too. Yeah, there's just, John Stockton didn't mention John Stockton. You'll probably have him behind Isaiah, but I think he's definitely a top 10 point guard of all time too.
We lost Jesse.
Yeah, the blasphemy, like just it got him all the way up out of there.
Oh no, I'm back. I'm back. I ain't gonna let you leave on that.
All right. So
hold on. Like I'm still trying to wrap my brain around the craziness that you just said. Hey, I'm gonna give you a flyer though. You did win Battler of the Year. You on a different level right now. I can't argue with you.
What's the term A1 when you're like, okay, they might not be in the first class, but they're on the plane. You know what I mean? Like, or what is it? When I'm saying like I understand Isaiah Thomas is a staple of a top 10 point guard. There's nobody, if anybody that's not smart, nobody that knows anything about basketball is ever going to make a top 10 list without Isaiah Thomas. It just doesn't.
There's no one that's going to make a top 5 list without Isaiah on it.
No, there are. I mean, you could Google it, and there are. Yeah, like you can. Like to you.
No.
But interchangeably, that 4 through 7
is preference. It's preference.
It's kind of preference.
I think Jesse, to his point, I think you have to be fair. It is preference. When you start talking about that 4 through 7 is preference. You were going to have Isaiah top 3. Off the top of my head, I'm probably going to have Isaiah top 3 without really.
I mean, that's like saying Peyton Manning's a 4 through 7 quarterback.
I mean, but see, like, I would look at it and say, you know what? If you like Tom Brady, Joe Montana, and who else? There's
Elway Marino. Hey, listen. No, you really could, though. I mean,
I know it is really.
Like, I would say the same thing. Like, I would respond like you, I would respond like you. Yeah, 100%. I would say, preference. You're tripping. He's clearly in my top 3. Nobody can tell me otherwise. Yeah.
He's in my top 3, too. So that's just how crazy you are.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning would be in my top 3.
Well, you also watch Peyton Manning play.
I'll leave you with this, A.Ward. Go look at Isaiah Thomas's numbers before he actually started caring about being a teammate, like a great teammate. I mean, his numbers are insane.
So A1, you're taking Magic, Curry, and then Thomas, right? You're taking Thomas over like Oscar Robertson.
So when I talk about Oscar, I'm thinking about I'm relying on people reporting on Oscar.
Okay.
I never watched him play.
Okay. Same. I never did either. Mm-hmm.
But I think trying to put the proper respect on his name, I probably would go Bird, Robertson.
Hold on. Bird. He's not a point guard.
Sorry. I'm thinking Celtics Pistons.
Magic.
Magic. Robertson. Isaiah.
I thought you just took Curry over Isaiah.
No,
literally
you did.
I'm taking Isaiah over Curry.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm taking Isaiah. Then I might go Curry, Jerry West. Right? Like I just off the top of my head. Like not even like really sitting down and think of it. Off the top of my head, I might go that way. And I might put West over Curry. Like I want to see Curry's career end. I want to see where Curry ends up in terms of all-time points, assists, although he'll never be a high assist guy.
Bro, he literally has a 30-point playoff games, more than Duncan, Kawhi, Westbrook, Harden, of these.
But he's a result of the era he plays in.
True.
So I do think the interesting thing so I'll listen to people talk about.
And Isaiah Thomas's rings can be a result of no parity.
But hold up, no. But here's the thing, though. He
I'm
beat
not saying
the
they
best
are.
of the best, though. He beat the best. Like that's the difference.
And so does Curry.
Yeah, but there's a difference between beating the best of the best in today, and you are literally beating the only two other teams who are winning titles in a decade. Like you're
Because
literally.
there's only 2 teams that are winning titles.
So I mean, I think there's something to that, but you still got to beat them. Like you still got to beat them. Like you're still beating in their prime Celtics. You're still beating in their prime. Like Kareem was done. But you're still beating in their prime Worthy.
Right.
You're still beating Byron Scott as a young kid.
These guys didn't have
Thompson.
These guys didn't have the Dirk Nowitzki runs though, did they? Where they had to win the championship by the first round taking out the Lakers, the second round taking out the Thunder, like basically, you know what I mean? Like
the Pistons might though. I mean, like they're still beating the Michael Jordan and the Bulls were still formidable. Even though they pretty much owned them until the end. Like they were still formidable. Like you're still beating really good Sixers teams. You're still beating,
you had the Hawks, the Bucks.
Dominique, yeah, you're still beating really good teams. Like that's what I'm saying. Like Jesse is right in them being underrated in the fact that they beat two of the greatest teams of all time in their primes. Like you can never, it's just like LeBron and the Warriors and beating that 73-win Warriors.
So
team. You can never take that away from him.
So are you saying that something just has to be said? Like if you are the floor general and you beat the greatest franchise of all time, something has to be said about that, right?
Yes.
Well,
yes,
hold on.
Eli freaking Manning beat the Patriots and Tom Brady's undefeated team. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now,
thank you.
Now
I just wanted to set him up real quick. I
say, to go one step further on that though, it wasn't that he was just the general, which he disappeared.
I know. I just used that just to try to parallel the quarterback.
just wasn't that just Isaiah was the floor general? He was the face of the program. I mean, he was the guy. I mean, and he took all the good and the bad. As you can see with like the Rodman comments and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, had.
He's like, everybody turn the Wi-Fi off on your phones right now. I gotta finish this interview.
All right, Jesse, you good? Say something.
Mic check.
No,
1 2 1 2.
Did he take a bite? He took a bite. He took a bite.
All right.
No, so yeah. No, I appreciate you guys having me on, man.
You already know, bro. You already know.
I'm gonna leave with this. It's been cool to watch these things just because of the take me back down memory lane with not just the Pistons, but just the other things that happened during that time period. So it's been kind of cool to watch and then kind of rehash all these old things that I grew up with. So I appreciate you guys getting me on.
Yeah, so I'm going to put a poll up, even though I think I know the outcome because, young people are on Twitter. I am going to put up a poll. Who's the better point guard of all time? I almost feel like I should do this in sections. If I should go Steph versus Isaiah first, and then go Nash versus Isaiah second. Because I'm curious to see what that might be the one I do first.
Nash should be first, unless you're going to word it like, is Isaiah Thomas a better point guard than Curry? Now, you wouldn't want to do two at the time because people might think one or the other. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'll do Nash versus Isaiah, then we'll do Curry versus Isaiah.
Yeah, what's recent on your brain? Like you said, most people, I think you're going to get Curry on a lot of it because, for one, younger people, and then and he's more recent, he's more relevant now. So
Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool.
All right, cool. So y'all let us know what y'all think, man. Go to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, search @Brains and Bars, all one word. Where do you rank Isaiah Thomas all-time greatest point guards? Do you agree with A.Ward that he's somewhere in the top 7? Do you agree with Jesse that he's top 2? Don't forget, you can check out every episode of the podcast by going to soundcloud.com/Brains and Bars. Check us out, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Apple Podcasts. Anywhere where podcasts can be downloaded, you can check us out. Also, go to our YouTube page. We'll get this up on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and comment on the content there. I am A.Ward for everything A.Ward related. For Jesse, for A.Ward, we appreciate y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us. Until next time, it's been a black
and white
and yellow
yellow thing. So, well, I'll let y'all, man. Y'all
Hey,
be.
low key, he might not be the best Pistons point guard ever. Chauncey Billups is nice, bro.
I'm cutting this off, yo.
Chauncey Billups is nice. You're right.